Welcome back to the 10th anniversary season of Why Blank Lost. I'm David Bloomberg, and I'm happy to see that my co-host Jessica Lewis has recovered from her snake bite. And unlike Jake, she was not medevaced for the whole season.
Thank goodness I wasn't medevac. That would have been terrible, right? Yeah, no, I'm back. I apologize for my absence, but I truly appreciate the fill-in. Lindsay was fantastic as always. And David, thank you for understanding. There's a lot of things happening in my existence, but y'all did great without me. So it's okay. It's all right. We did okay. We did all right.
Luckily, it was a dry bite, so
Yeah.
you were okay there.
So glad.
Yes. And
Was
as
it Lindsay
many of
from my
you-
season? Sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Oh,
Mhm.
I miss her.
Yes, it was.
Oh,
I'll
yes.
check it out.
Yeah, she's fantastic. So I felt comforted in the fact that, like, when I was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
David, listen, I gotta bow out this week." I knew she was going to be able to step up. So it
You
was
can
good.
trust her.
Yeah.
Yes. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as you have heard, and as video viewers can already see, joining us is our second Survivor 43er in a row, special returning guest, Cassidy Clark.
Hello.
Hey.
Hey. Very happy to be back. It's been a while since I've done a podcast. I'm a little rusty, but I couldn't think of a better podcast to be reintroduced to the Survivor podcasting world. So thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Oh, you're always
Thank
such
you.
a joy. Thank you
Yes,
for being
yes.
here.
Aw, shucks.
So, how have you been doing?
I've been really good. Yeah. Just like normal life stuff, but
Is it really
Um,
normal? I mean, can you call it normal?
it feels compared to like a couple years ago, it definitely
Yeah.
feels a lot more normal.
That's good.
But yeah, I really just have been I don't know. Yeah, like just doing normal things and watching Survivor, obviously keeping up with the Joneses and all that. But yeah, it's been good. I've been happy. I enjoy like the more calm, casual life anyway. So but it's
That's
exciting
good.
to get on and talk about other people living out this exciting, incredible experience because I know how amazing this time was for me in my life a few years ago. And so I'm just like I'm always so thrilled for the people that are like going through it in the moment because I know how special it is. And so it's fun to come back and talk about it every once in a while. And yeah, so I'm happy to be
We
here.
can live vicariously through them again.
Yes. Oh my God, please.
Well, and this week, we've got something new. We can finally discuss someone who wasn't on Kelly.
Oh, yes.
So this will give
Wow.
us a bit of change from the first 3 episodes. Now, even so, it would be easy for someone to just say, Matt got swap screwed. What's there to discuss?
Sure.
As indeed he has said himself. But that is by no means even close to the full answer about what went wrong for him / he did wrong. Even after the swap, Jason was in the minority right there with him. Sophie had nobody. So to figure out why he was the one who ended up heading back to Ponderosa for cheeseburgers and beer, we'll follow the same path we always do and compare how he played to a set of guiding rules for winning I originally wrote way back after season 1 and have been updating ever since. And we'll use all the non-spoiler information available to us from what we saw on TV, interviews, social media, and secret scenes. Of course, the newest published version of the rules can be found on robhasawebsite.com/YXLostFeed, where you can then click on the link bubble for the Survivor rules. But before we address how Matt did in terms of those rules, we always have some other things to talk about. And I want to start with a topic we've been discussing this season, which is the beware advantages. And I already dropped a video on this earlier today as we're recording this. But after Alex had to get a literal ball and chain in order to retrieve his idol, we figured, oh, well, the other two are going to have to do something similar, equivalent. But no. When Rizzo's allies dug around the well, there was just this little scroll telling him, go find a chest in the absolutely clear water.
Yeah.
It was super simple and could easily have been accomplished by one person if he hadn't already told everyone, as opposed to the ball and chain, which was huge and clanked and, needed Jake to carry it. And
That's so true.
I have a theory though. I do have a theory, and maybe I'm misremembering things, but they ended up on the Hina Beach, right?
Yes.
So I feel like it was a last minute, like, oh snap, we have to like install this Beware Advantage thing now because it was for someone who was not from Hina.
Yeah, but it was always installed before they got back to the beach. Because remember, they got the Beware Advantage, and it said you can look at the well after you lose a challenge, and only
Right.
then will there be
Yeah.
something there.
Right,
So
but
They could have buried that pretty quickly though while they were at a challenge.
right.
The new,
I mean,
like
and,
was it originally the Hina? Sorry, I watched Survivor, but I don't watch it as closely as I used to. Was it originally a Hina person that found the first advantage?
no, Kelly found the first one. That was the
yeah,
ball.
it was that was the ball and chain.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't on the Hina Beach.
right.
Right.
And
Okay,
then
yeah.
Hina
So
MC
yeah,
found
so it
the
probably
Hina
was.
one.
Yeah. I know. I agree with that. I actually didn't catch that, but I feel like that is significantly easier to
Mhm.
to get and to hide from your tribe because, like, honestly, unless they like told you otherwise, you could just say you're taking an aqua dump and go
Right.
out there where nobody's
Yeah.
gonna look for you. He was even like behind a rock face almost. So I feel like even from the
Mhm.
beach, you couldn't really see what he was doing. So you're right. That was a good call. I feel like that did seem a lot easier than carrying a ball and chain through the forest where anybody could come stumble upon you and see you. Like,
Yeah.
what are like that's so suspicious, like what you're holding. Like you can't write that off or talk your way out of that. So that's an interesting call.
Yeah, if I were Alex, I'd be like, "What the hell, man?"
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, this is something that we've talked about. I think it was last season too, where a lot of the Beware Advantages, like some seemed much easier to
Mhm.
figure out than others, and I do feel like there's a little bit of a sense of unfairness there, right? Now I understand Survivor wants to keep everybody guessing, but yeah, there was something a little bit cagey about that whole component, and also the fact that he had already told everybody, so everybody knew where they needed to
Right.
dig, and then they were able to just like do this without him even being present. I thought was really quite fascinating as well. So good for him for having like a backup group of people to do the work for him, but also at the same time, it didn't appear to be as necessary because it wasn't a ball and chain. It was really just a quick little dig.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that it does speak to Rizzo's game so far that he could, or should I say Riz God, sorry, that he had all of these people working for him without him even having to be there. And there was no question in
Right.
their minds of like, are we going to tell him that we dug this? Are we going to like, it was like very much like, we're doing this for him. Like they were so excited to be able to do that for him.
Yeah.
And I think I mean, that's pretty impressive this early in the game.
Well, and I
too,
did,
like,
yes, and I appreciate the fact that it was also for somewhat selfish reasons as well. They wanted him to have his vote back, right? So it's like this weird combination of we want to do this for Rizzo, however, we also need to do it for us so that way he can have his vote back.
fair.
So
Yeah.
it was interesting that they were willing to be like, oh, okay, well, we're going to do this. I'm curious if they hadn't told him and they had just taken it upon themselves to complete the task and get the idol, I guess, would he have gotten his vote back?
Well, I don't think they could have done it. So I believe, if I am remembering right, and I really should have gone back and listened because I think Rob talked about this and other people have talked about it, but I would swear that on the most recent On Fire podcast, Jeff answered a question similar to that, like what happens if someone else digs it up first?
Right.
And he said, no, it belongs to the person who got the Beware Advantage. So it would be like if you found an idol and you decided you didn't want it on your person, so you went out into the forest and you dug a hole and you stuck it there. No other player could come and steal it from you.
You know what?
They could find it.
A hot take. I feel like it would be more interesting and more old school Survivor if they just let like anybody, because if you decide to tell somebody that you have the Beware Advantage and you share the information with them, it should be fair game. And I think that would be more interesting to see how people would turn on each other when they knew that they could get this. Like you choose to share that with people, that information. And I feel like you should be able to use that to your advantage if somebody gives you that information. And so I think it's kind of, I think it would be cooler if,
I agree with you because it's the same as if, in the in the olden days when you just got a clue. Well, if someone else saw that clue or someone else found it before you used that clue,
Right.
yeah, then they got it. But because I think it's to avoid overcomplicating the rules for themselves.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that they were just
They're
like, no,
concerned
once you get the beware advantage, that ties into everything, so it's all yours from there out. Because I don't think they want to answer the question of, well, what happens if someone else takes it? Does he still not
And then
have his
their
vote?
vote, is it now their vote that, that's
Yeah.
fair.
Yeah.
And so rather than think about that, they were just like, no, we're not going to
Logistics are, a little complicated, but
yeah, maybe
again,
they need
I just
to
like the
not make
messiness of,
those-
I like the messiness of allowing it.
yeah.
Well, and that's a great point because it can be messy without it being complicated, right? Like
Right.
if they would just simplify things, it would be so much more fun because
Yeah.
I do think that right now there are so many extra layers to all of these advantages and all of these rules and all of these advantages with beware and patch them and all of this stuff. Just let them be. Just let it. People will play. People will look for those idols. People will try to go through other people's things and look for them. So yes, the limitations are unnecessary. Just let them be. Let it play.
Yeah, I feel like if you're doing a beware advantage and then it's also like this incredibly complicated task to perform, it's like, why are you taking away their vote also, or the threat of their vote also? Because it's already risky for them to have to go through this like jump through all these hoops in front of or around their tribe to be able to get the advantage. I feel like it should just be an advantage and not. And then that way, if it wasn't like your vote's getting taken away, it would be less complicated when you're talking about people like taking the information for themselves and trying to find it themselves. I feel like it's just the taking away the vote thing that makes it the most complicated. And I honestly don't love the taking away the vote either, because I feel like it's
I hate that.
But
I
that's
really
why
hate
it
that.
says beware.
Yeah. But the beware part could be like, you have to like carry a ball and chain through the forest in front of your around your tribe, and like that's risky enough. But I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what MC has to do, where her task falls on this
That's right. I
scale.
forgot she has the other one.
I'm like, is there a fairness judge that decides between the 3 tasks? Like, this is.
I mean, they could.
I do feel like they had a guy. They did have a guy, actually.
Oh, they still have it.
They
They have a fairness guy. I forgot about that.
They do have a fairness
I met him.
But it could be considered fair to randomize it. It could be considered fair to just say, well, we picked out of the hat to see which they would get. Now,
fair gets complicated in a game like this.
Yeah, is that fair? Sort of, but it doesn't feel fair when you make the guy on the disaster tribe have to do more than the person on the tribe that has everything. So
Did y'all see the disaster tribe? Because I feel like in previous seasons I've been able to see the disaster tribe coming. Did y'all feel that way previously? Coming to it?
No.
I feel the same.
Great.
Because everybody looked at Jake and went, well, they're fine, because you just presume that someone on the tribe has the ability to do a freaking puzzle.
Yes.
Yeah, it really
was. Boy, were we all wrong about that one. Yeah.
Yes, we definitely were very wrong about that.
So
well,
it was just one tragedy after another with the snake bite and the down to 2, man. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's tough.
So
well, and I do think and I know this isn't this season or this episode, but like with the snake bite stuff happening, I just think I think it's fascinating to see the decisions that are being made in situations like that, because I was curious if they were even still going to vote someone or still have a tribal council, even with him leaving, because even Jeff referenced it this week that we're now doing a swap sooner than we would have done because Jake ended up leaving. So there are like certain components to this game where they have to switch things up and change their decisions. But at the same time, it's structured in such a way that there has to be this like timeline of things. So it is interesting to see how those determinations are made. Like what is considered fair in a game like this? Because when you are now doing a swap earlier based upon someone being taken out of the game, but you still had a tribal council. Like, I just want, like, I would love to know, like, those conversations, like what's happening.
I mean, I'm sure it comes down to if he had gotten bitten after the challenge, I don't think there would have been a tribal council.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
But because he was bitten before the challenge, what are they going to fill an hour and a half with?
Oh,
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's a fair point. Okay.
You know, I mean, they need that challenge and the discussions that happen after it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as it was, they still had, so they had the challenge, they had the discussions for tribal council, they had two people finding beware advantages, and they had all the snake bite stuff.
Yeah.
They needed all of that to fill the hour and a half.
Yeah. Mm.
So
They need some more excitement, that's for sure.
Can I say I almost stepped on that snake? Not thinking about me, but I did. Me and one of the night producers, we were walking. It was like we were on the Final Five beach, and we were walking to an interview like late at night. And he had his phone flashlight like guiding us, and he had said he had this just like strong intuition to point it towards the ground because it was like kind of more facing like directly. And we literally were like, there was a sea crate that just like went right in front of us. It was actually so crazy. And he was like, I had this moment of God, like to like shine the light down.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was pretty crazy. I know. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's so tough because like you know you're out there in the wild and you're obviously like a little bit nervous about like a coconut falling on your head or getting bitten by something or you know there's like or me, I slept so close to the fire. I feel like I almost caught on fire a couple of times. Like there's definitely danger out there, but when it like actually happens, like something severe, it's like I can't even imagine what that experience is like, and then having no control over being taken out of the game or not. I mean, even though this was a dry bite, the fact that he was still like it was out of his hands, whether he wanted to continue or not, was like,
that's just
tough.
awful.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
Well, switching topics a bit, the other main topic that I was thinking about before we get to the rules, it's already gotten a fair amount of attention from Rob in particular on both Know-It-Alls and his recap episode. And that is the way Shannon has been acting when using religion in the game. And I agree with what Rob said on Know-It-Alls about how he has an issue with people in these games using it as a part of the strategy, particularly and mainly because they will never admit that they were using it as a part of their strategy. You know, go all the way back to Coach when he had his, religion, tribe stuff. There's no way that Coach will ever say, oh, yeah, that was totally strategy. No.
Right.
And I think that really nails the point because it would be one thing if she was pulling a Johnny Fairplay and saying to the cameras, yeah, my grandma isn't really dead, but it's part of my plan.
Mm-hmm.
Or in this case, obviously, it would be, modified for her religious stuff. Like, yeah, I'm religious, but I'm totally just using this, to get in closer to them. But she's not going to do that. She's never going to admit that this is what she's doing. And I mean, I don't think she'd even admit it to herself.
This is a tricky subject.
Yes.
Because I do understand that component of it where people don't necessarily want to admit that it's part of their strategy. However, if that is part of who you are on the daily and that's just how you live your life, inserting that into part of your game almost feels natural, I think, to that person. I know people who are very in tune with their religious beliefs and they do end up inserting it into their everyday practices and the things that they do. Whether or not then utilizing that as part of your game becomes an issue, I don't really know, because it is you take into the game who you are and the beliefs that you have and the way that you act, and there were certain parts of me that I knew I needed to, like I've said it before, keep Jessica in the box. Like I couldn't really include those parts of myself, but you have to be mindful of that going in. And so I'm curious if, like, I don't know if it's necessarily, if that is who she is every single day, and then she's also being that way on the island. Is it gameplay or is it just her being her and then that becomes part of her game?
I mean, according to Sage, she saw a change from the way she was on one tribe to the other.
Sure. And that is a good, and obviously someone who's out there seeing it is going to be a better judge relative to that. And I do think that you are correct that she will never admit that, no, that was a purposeful decision and I was inserting that into my game on purpose in order to further my game. Yeah, I don't think she would ever want to acknowledge that because there does feel like that's kind of icky, right? If that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, like the taboo lines that you kind of tread with certain topics. Like you can lie about your profession all day. You can like
Sure.
lay it on thick with this and that. But when it comes to like these like bigger, like,
Well,
sorry, go ahead.
no. I was going to say, I mean, she is taking a risk by doing it because part of Rule 5 is, keep your politics and controversial beliefs to yourself.
Sure.
And she has absolutely, now, maybe she took a temperature check. Maybe she looked to see how everyone felt about it. But going all the way back to Brian in, God, what season was that?
Are you talking about Brian Haddock?
No, Brian Corden. So was that, gosh, that was a long time ago. I did a video on this exact topic because he talked about on the show, like his tribe was all like, let's say grace before the meal and let's do this and let's do that. And he's like, yeah, this is not me, but I'm in this tribe, so I have to pretend.
Sure.
So, you've got that situation going on where, I've seen it on Big Brother too, a few seasons ago. One woman came in right at the beginning and she's like, is it okay if I say grace at the meal? Well, at the very beginning of the game, no one's going to stand out and say, no, absolutely not. Because it's a game. But then she did it. Like she assumed that she knew these people's religious beliefs throughout the entire season then. And, it's, if there are enough of those people who don't agree with you, you can get voted out for that. I don't know that Shannon will.
Sure.
But even just, on a human level, it's kind of like the the coach on a football team saying, well, I'm going to say a prayer if nobody objects. Well, no, you're not going to object to your coach saying it, even if you aren't the same religion as him. And
yeah, I mean, this is all part of what makes Survivor an even more difficult game to play because there are decisions that you have to make and I'm sure you did this too, Cassidy, before you went out there. You have to have a very real conversation with yourself. Like, what part of me am I going to put out into the universe? What part of me am I going to introduce to the people I'm playing this game with? Because they can judge you for literally anything. And they will, because they will look for any reason to vote you out. And I do think that there's something to be said about creating this part of yourself that then makes someone else feel uncomfortable for potentially utilizing that as a reason to vote you out. Like if any of the other players who might say, well, we should probably vote Shannon out because I don't agree with what she's saying and how she's the religious component of it, then it's going to make that person feel a little icky and can have that effect on individuals. So it's a very difficult thing to do when you're playing a game with real people who have real lives and have to make these decisions about themselves, and then to see the effects that those decisions can have on the game and how people perceive you, and then what they want to do with that information. So yeah, it can become very, very concerning for everyone, not just the Shannons, but the people who are with the Shannons and who are having to make these decisions about the Shannons and how do we want to deal with this? Because you're right. If someone says, well, I want to say grace, are you really going to be the first one to say, well, I don't agree with that? Or are you just going to let it be, but maybe that's not part of your own beliefs? And so it's very, very tricky for sure.
Yeah, I think because I'm also somebody who I would say I am a spiritual person, but I did have like some elements of that in my game, like not really with my strategy, but like I would go and meditate every morning on the beach. I would do yoga. Generally, I did it alone unless somebody wanted to join me. But it wasn't something I like really pushed onto people. I just sort of kept it to myself. I connected with my sister, and that was really just more for me to like get through the hard moments in the game. And I wouldn't say I mean, it was a part of my personality because I mean, I did feel strongly about it, but I feel like I really kept that part of myself more to
Mm.
myself.
Mhm.
There was one side of me though, like where I just really don't like to see animals suffering or just like you know what I mean, having to like kill the hermit crabs and those things were like really like touchy for me and tough. And I remember my brothers before I went out, they were like, "Don't do the animal thing when you go out there because you're gonna," you know what I mean. So it's like subjects like that. And there was a time when Ryan on my tribe wanted to like kill a snake, and I was like, the snake was sleeping in the tree, and so to me, I was like, it seems unfair that you're like trying to kill a snake that's sleeping rather than like if you can catch it, you know. And it's just like
Right,
and
right.
of course Ryan like didn't take that well, and he like I think that was was one of the like many reasons why he was like, let's get cat, you know what I mean, that we kind of had this like rift.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting, like obviously like a lot of people don't feel that way, and so it's like your beliefs and especially with touchy subjects like that can really cause like rifts in the tribe, or it can, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like in Shannon's case, obviously she's trying to bond with people through that way. But it can be a precarious like line to toe when you bring like politics and like your stronger beliefs and things into the game.
Mhm.
And sometimes it is best to leave that, you know, like on the fringes more so than make it such a pivotal part of your game. But if she actually feels that strongly, like who am I to say that, like, you know what I mean, you shouldn't connect with people over like spirituality and religion? Because if you're bonding with somebody and it like feels real to you in the moment, then I totally understand that. But then like how is it being perceived, and how is it not even just like to the audience, but to people
Well,
that are around you on your tribe? And like, you know, you
Mhm.
have to consider all of these things when you're playing, because if you want to get to the end, you have to like really minimize the amount of reasons that you're pitting people against you. And so it's just
well,
like, I don't know, it's kind
yeah.
of a tricky thing. But like I understand her from a perspective of like she feels so strongly about this and like connected, and she wants to connect with people that connect with other people about things that she like feels strongly
Mm.
about and loves. But yeah, it can be a tough
Well,
line to
and it's
walk. So
even trickier because, okay, what happens when you form those, what other people think are real, true connections, and then you vote them out?
Yeah.
You know, that is a hard thing to get over if those people are in the jury or if other people see you do it. Um, Now, one area where I disagree with Rob was he said that Shannon was using some things outside the game, like bonding with Christina over the death of Christina's mother a few years ago.
Mm.
Um, as much as I hate to say it, and sound like I might be defending it, which I'm not, nothing in the game is outside the game. When Johnny Fairplay pulled his stunt, at the
Mhm.
time, I was very much against it. I said that was outside the game. He should not have done that. That was terrible. But my opinions on that have evolved. All's fair in love, war, and Survivor. It's still, as you said, Jessica, icky.
Yeah.
And you need to be ready for blowback from
Mhm.
viewers and from social media and from your fellow players.
Yeah. For sure.
Imagine what would have happened if the other players found out that Johnny Fairplay's grandmother was not really dead
Right.
while he was still on the island. He would have been gone like that,
Right. For sure.
you know? And so, do either of you have anything or anyone else you want to discuss before we move into the rules for Matt?
I think we're 35 minutes in almost. We should probably talk about Matt.
Probably. Um, all right. Well,
Now
there
that
were, of course,
Cassidy's sweating.
yeah.
it is hot in
There
here.
were, of course, other things going on, but I'll be putting some of that in my TikToks and YouTube shorts, or YouTube, as at David Bloomberg TV. But before we do get to how Matt did, we want to mention the rules we're about to discuss come in a shorter, much more colorful version
They
in
do.
poster form.
I have
Go
a
to
in my hand.
robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeet, scroll down to the poster and click on it and order it. In addition to the poster, you can keep scrolling and find that design on a t-shirt, or you can keep scrolling and find the shirt that I'm wearing. Well, not literally the exact shirt, but the design. And the checklist design there on that same page. So again, that's robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeet. feed.
Maybe you should sell your shirt. Who
I-
knows? Maybe you can make a bank.
I doubt it, but hey, people can contact me if they want.
Listen, let's do an eBay sale for David Bloomberg's shirt.
The shirt
No,
off his back tonight.
Yes,
That's right. That's right.
like game used uniforms.
Yes.
the
Listen,
podcast used T-shirt.
I do believe that some Survivor players have sold their clothing from
Yeah.
their game. So
Those are
this can
players.
happen.
So
I considered
David.
selling my bra, but nothing else.
I actually,
I'm kidding.
weirdly enough, I did sell the same exact bra that I wore while I was out there, like the sports bra, but I didn't want to sell the one I had been wearing because I'm like, that's a little bit. So I
rubbed it in the dirt outside and then sent
no,
it.
I was very clear. Like this is a replica, and I I did like a handprint on it, and I wrote it. I did not pretend at all,
Classy.
but it was to raise money for breast cancer. So
Okay.
I was like,
that's amazing.
right,
See,
yeah,
that's amazing.
So, yeah, so that was good.
Much
So,
better than I do.
but I was also like, I really don't want to part. Like, Matt,
yeah, I
left
still
his
have my
bag
unwashed
behind.
clothes. I still have my unwashed clothes like in a box.
Like you can't, like I can't believe Matt was like, nah, I don't need that stuff in my real life.
So-
Like,
oh, whoa,
no,
yeah, that's crazy.
yeah.
I don't know though. If I got voted out like that, I feel like maybe I'd be like, whatever.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about how he got voted out. Because as I mentioned earlier, it would be easy to say Matt just got swap screwed. He told Mike Bloom, I picked the wrong buff, and that's why I went home. Not much I could have done. I tried. I went out swinging. But is that why he went home? Was he doing all he could have? Did he really go out swinging? If you're guessing the answer to all of these questions is no, you are correct. And we're going to explain why. Because at RHAP, we know Survivor, and we know why Matt lost. Now, the first and most important rule is, of course, to scheme and plot. Matt immediately gets a failing grade here because he said, I hate how Sandra played the game. Now, as soon as those words came across the TV, almost all of Blue Sky wanted him gone, except for one bozo who argued with me and had a whole bunch of bad takes on his timeline that nobody was reading because he had one whole follower. But now, I am kidding about Matt, sort of. We'll get to that in a bit. For now, it did look like he started out well in his original tribe, making a tight bond with Steven and then expanding that into what could have been a core four. And even though MC was skeptical, I think Matt is right when he said in interviews that if original Hina had gone to tribal council, he probably would have been safe. But then the swap happened and he ended up in the minority, and it all went downhill from there because, quite frankly, he handled it in completely the wrong way. As he told Mike Bloom, I'm not going to start a campaign to keep me and get rid of Jason.
Here, I think we know why that ended up happening, because he did actually describe himself at the very beginning of this game, pre-game, that he was loyal to a fault. And I think we saw that just beaming here by not throwing Jason under the bus, which I get. I understand you like Jason, you think he's a great human being, and you want to be able to play the game. But this is a game for $1 million. And when it comes down to it, you have to make a choice. And the choice would have been, I have to throw Jason under the bus. I apologize. But a game for $1 million. So yeah, I do think that was not a great strategy decision at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like in Survivor, when you're like that honorable, like, I'll die on my sword before I give you to my enemy, it's like, you die on your sword, usually.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
You think that it's like you're going to be saved in this last moment by like your heroics, but a lot of the time, unfortunately, in the game of Survivor, it doesn't pan out that way. And the thing is that when you go in, like, and I admire that, truly, like, that honorable spirit and that loyalty. Like, I do admire that, especially like in real life. Like, those character traits are so like important, and like, you know what I mean? It's impressive, like, when you live that way, because I feel like it's so easy to, like, in our world, to like not. And I think it's like, so I want to give credit where credit's due, but in the game of Survivor, it's a different set of rules. and you all sign up to play this game like by these rules where it's like basically anything goes. I mean, obviously with caveats, but it's like lie, seat, shield, backside, like do whatever you can to get to the end of the game. And I feel like that's more of the like vibe of Survivor. And so I think that when you come into this game with those like still real life principles and you're not willing to sacrifice that even a little bit, like yes, while it is honorable, it's probably not going to win you $1 million. And so it's like, is it worth your honor in that moment? I mean, and for some people it is. And I think that that's like, you know what I mean? All the more power to them. Like, I really do respect that. But it's not like you're doing something wrong in the game of Survivor by doing by going against your team, because we all know what we signed up for is what I'm getting at. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like playing a game of chess.
It's not stealing candy from a baby. You know what I mean? We're all adults here.
Yeah. If you play a game of chess, you're not going to be like, oh, well, I could put you in checkmate, but I feel bad for the king. So I'm not going to do that. I'll just take this pawn over here instead, or I mean, any game. We've compared it to so many games over the years. And if someone lands on your space in Monopoly, are you not going to charge them because, oh, well, they don't have much money in the game, so I don't want to knock them out. It's like, no,
it is still a game. Yeah.
Right.
It's not like real life circumstances.
And you end up putting yourself in a really bad spot if you are going against the majority in the way that he was, where all of a sudden he's now throwing Nate under the bus instead of Jason. And so you are, again, in a game when they are looking for a reason to vote people out, and you are literally handing them a reason. Because what did Nate say? He's like, he's dead to me. That's it.
Yeah.
Like, he said my name. So you don't understand the relationships of the other four. You have no idea how close they are. You are trying to read a room that you've just entered into, and you see Nate as the leader and think, oh, well, this will be the big move then. We target him, we get him out, without thinking about all of the other things that come with that. And I really feel like he did not really process all of the components of this, because they had the majority. Unfortunately, they had the majority and he was not part of it. You need to become part of it as opposed to working against it. Jason was doing the same thing. Jason was like, Hina, I'm Hina strong. So both of them were like locked into this idea of what they had been as opposed to what they could become. Whereas you had Sophie, she was like, take me in. I am with you like 100%. And that's the approach you have to take, because that's going to get you inroads. That's going to get you connections. That's going to get you further in the game. And then you can try to make those big moves later if you really feel that it's still necessary. But at that moment, when you're just getting to know each other, that's not the time. It's really not.
Yeah, it was truly too early. And then also the fact that he did recognize that like Nate sort of was, I mean, maybe this wasn't entirely true, but like Nate felt like the ringleader to him. And I do think Nate holds a lot of sway and like respect in that group from what I've seen. Obviously, I don't know for sure, but I think that like even choosing to go after him was like you just met these people, and like the odds of you being able to rally them all against their like perceived king in that moment is just like so slim. And you have to have the most charismatic, like incredible personality to like, and just like perfect set of circumstances to ever be able to pull something like that off. So it was just such a shot in the dark. Pun intended. I respect him for trying to like pull a move, you know what I mean? Because like a lot of people are more scared and will immediately throw the other person under the bus. And so I do respect that like he tried to like actually make something happen without having to sacrifice one of his own. But it's just when it's so early and it's, you know, you basically, it's like Hina versus what's the other guy? Uli. That's And Hina versus Uli, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like more than likely just that's how the chips are gonna fall in this vote. And so you just have to do what you can to just make it one more vote. You know what I mean? Even if it means sacrificing one of your own, unfortunately. But you don't know these people that well, so.
Right. I mean, Matt
Although
needed
6 days, that will bond you.
Yeah.
And then you'll start to hate each other on the 7th day.
He needed to follow Sandra's creed. Even though he said he was willing to go with anybody but him, he actually wasn't. That was just a decoy for Nate. while he went all in on his tunnel vision plan to target Nate.
Yeah.
And he told Mike Bloom, I thought this was a bigger, better, bolder move. And if it worked, it would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it was bigger and bolder, definitely not better. And, with that said, there was apparently more to the whole situation than what we saw. Matt said in interviews that he and Jawan talked about it for much, much longer. And they also involved Jason and Sophie in those conversations to come up with a plan. Of course, the main problem is that both Jawan and Sophie ran those plans right back to the other original Uli. And, one reason that they did that was the plan didn't make sense. Matt claimed that for Jawan, turning on Nate would move him from the bottom to a power position as the guy who saved them. But that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
He'd be trading in like a 5th or 6th position for a 7th or 8th position while also pissing off all of his fellow Uli.
Yeah.
And it didn't make sense for Sophie because, as Matt admitted in tribal council, he, quote, had no idea that Sophie had been taken in. So even aside from that, of course, it was smarter for the untethered single player to get in with the clear majority group rather than joining some ragtag rebellion. So, even if he didn't know that, just take a look at the situation. It's a bad idea for Jawan. It's a bad idea for Sophie. So this is who you're proposing this plan to.
Yeah. And I do think there's something to be said about this idea when you play Survivor. You're like, oh, if that worked, that would be so awesome. But how many times have we actually seen those moments in Survivor where, like, if this actually works, it's going to be so great. It's few and far between. Those moments do exist, but they exist when you have more than just one person creating this idea, this plan. And he was one person who was trying to convince others that he knew very little about of this could be so awesome idea. When Jawan, no, it's not so awesome for Jawan.
You need to be like a cult-like figure to be able to pull off moves like this. That's really like a Boston Rob or something. And speaking of I know you mentioned Sandra like briefly. This is actually very funny. When I was watching it last night, I had my like subtitles on, and every time the subtitle said Xander.
Yes, I've heard that from several people.
I was so confused. I was like, I don't remember Xander like playing like that, but okay. And then I listened to Rob has a podcast this morning, and they were saying Sandra, and I was like, that makes so much more sense. But I thought that was really funny.
I think it is funny that
he really does not like Xander's game. I'm like, why wasn't that like? I just didn't understand the like animosity, but Sandra makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny that clearly it was the Survivor subtitlers or your closed caption people who messed it up, because it wasn't just like a live situation where someone randomly picked
somebody
Xander
listened to it
out.
and
they
must not have been like
Xander.
a big fan of the
they clearly were not a Survivor fan.
Yeah. They're only new school fan. That Xander is the only one.
Exactly. They're like, that's all I hear. All I hear is Xander.
Right. Yeah. Now, as I said earlier, the obvious thing that Matt should have done is turn on Jason. But he wouldn't. Rob asked Matt if he feels he should have gone harder after Jason. Matt said no. He's a massive fan of Jason. He added to Gordon Holmes that he wasn't going to do that. Quote, I'm not going to play that game. But as we were saying earlier, I'm not sure what game he thought he was playing because that is the game. It's him or you. I don't know.
I mean, that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah. All right. Well, then we can move to the second rule, which says not to scheme and plot too much and to keep your scheming secret. We could have talked about his plan to target Nate here. I consider that to be bad strategy rather than over scheming. So, I mean, as we discussed, he obviously picked the wrong path. With that in mind,
both.
Well, yeah. With that in mind, Cassidy, did you see any issues with Matt in this rule?
With the scheming and not scheme and plot too much? I mean,
with over scheming, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I don't want to gripe on him for trying to make a move, because this was like potentially his last chance to actually do that. And I feel like maybe he felt like he was backed into a corner, and this is like my last time to like actually play the game. And he didn't really get a chance to play the game when he was on a winning tribe. So I think maybe he was like, let me, like, this may be my last chance to actually do something. And so I don't want to like go too hard on him for that, because I feel like that was really where he was coming from.
That's
And he
okay,
didn't want
I
to turn
will.
his guy. But yes, obviously it wasn't like the best plan and the best strategy, and it didn't work. It didn't work in his favor. But I do think he was just like trying to play the game, even if it wasn't the best decision. He tried to make something happen, so I'll applaud him for that.
All right, Bloomberg, get into it.
Well, no, I mean, we've already talked about it. So
Yeah.
I mean, Jessica, I don't know if you had anything else to add for the second rule.
No, I mean, it's much of what we've discussed.
Yeah.
I understand, as Cassidy did say, that you have to, sometimes you feel like you have to do something, but there's so many considerations that you have to make when you are deciding what path to try to take. Survivor's doesn't always make you feel good when you have to make these decisions. It's not real life. It's a game for $1 million. Yeah.
All right. Well, the third rule tells players to be flexible, and he had some options, as we've discussed. Jessica, how do you think he did in terms of this rule?
I don't think he did very well, considering he was so unwilling to throw Jason under the bus. And again, I get it. You like people and you don't want to do that. You don't want to have to turn on someone that you've been playing the game with. But if you don't make that decision, then you might not continue to play the game. So I do think that he needed to work on the flexibility, even though he might try to claim, and people might say, well, but look at him. He was coming up with ideas and he was willing to go after Nate. And so he was willing to try new things and not just go along with what the crowd was doing. Sure. And that makes sense. But at the same time, he was so locked into Hina, this idea of Hina, that I think he lost sight of, this is actually an individual game. Even though you're part of a tribe, you are still like playing for yourself. And he needed to be more cognizant of that with the decisions he was making.
Do y'all think that like their perspective of coming at it from especially more so with Jason, like talking about Hina and like how he like is loyal to them, do you think in his mind he's like, I don't want them to see me as like a flaky person just in case they want to work with me in the future, so they see that I'm loyal? Because I feel like there's like such a tightrope that you walk with, like immediately being like, I'll turn on, like whatever, like I want to be with y'all, I want to work with y'all, and people think you're flaky and they can't trust you.
Sure.
Versus like this obviously didn't work well in Jason's favor, although it worked well enough for him to stay because Matt kind of messed up in his own right. But it's like, do you think that from Jason's perspective he was like trying to show that he will be loyal to the people he wants to work with, or what? Like, because to me, going into it being like, I'm Hina strong, like there's nothing you can do about it, to the tribe that you're like on the outs, or when you're like in the minority, it doesn't seem like a very smart move. So I'm trying to understand his perspective of, was he just trying to show that he's a loyal player? Maybe?
Yeah, we didn't really hear from him directly as to what his thought process was in doing it. I think he just believed he was in trouble no matter what. So he chose the path of, because he did in the end vote against Matt.
Yeah.
He didn't have that same unwillingness that Matt.
Yeah, he just gave the other tribe the vibe that he was like totally Hina strong, right? Like we didn't see much of the conversations, but that was the taste that was left in their mouth. So
yeah, I think the problem with Matt was like you said, Jessica, he was locked in on one plan. He admitted in interviews that one plan was a Hail Mary, and yet he still did it. I mean, yes, there are times when you have to throw a Hail Mary. It's, but this was not one of those times yet. He came in to the fourth quarter being like, okay, I'm down a couple points. I'm going to throw a Hail Mary. And everybody should have been looking at him like, okay, coach, but we've got a whole quarter here. We have time to talk this through, maybe run a few other plays and see what happens, maybe go after this person. And instead, nope, I'm throwing the Hail Mary and there's nothing you can do to talk me out of it. And even when he thought he was likely to get voted out, he never changed course. And
Yeah.
he came to a fork in the road and ignored the most obvious path, which was to go after Jason.
And
And he was like, nope, instead of taking this road, this highway, I'm going to take this treacherous footpath off to the side here.
I am curious too if part of this decision stemmed from his idea of old school Survivor, and I love old school Survivor, so I'm not speaking ill of it, but he really saw himself as a provider and someone who was like taking care of the tribe. And so perhaps he thought, well, maybe I'm tossing this Hail Mary, but at the same time, look at all of the things I'm doing for these people. And I'm giving them food and I'm providing for them. And in his mind, he thought that that was much more significant and important than someone like Nate, who is just the tribe leader, but what is he providing? And someone like Jason, who is a puzzle guy, and we need someone who can do puzzles. So I feel like also like he was kind of locked into that idea of what he thought Survivor should be, as opposed to what Survivor is. Unfortunately, Survivor skills, as much as it should be important, it is called Survivor. It's not going to make or break whether or not you will be kept on a tribe when decisions need to be made in moments like this. And so I'm curious if that was part of his issue here as well, is that he just couldn't get away from that idea of what he thought the game was.
Yeah, and I also think that in his mind, like he'd been providing and doing these things for his tribe for 6 days or whatever, however long it's been, and then he comes to this newer tribe and all like really it's only his word to vouch for, like, I can do all these things, right? Like, how much time did he actually have to prove to these 4 people that he will be that for them? You know, obviously in his mind, he's been doing this for so long, so he feels like very valuable. And I think sometimes, and I probably did this also in my season where I like had this idea of like how I'm being perceived because I am being this way, but I forget that like people haven't on the newer tribes, like the people that I merged with haven't had the time to actually see this from me and like and see like these parts of my personality and like that are valuable that like they haven't had enough time to like garner. And I think that it may be something like that where he like knows that he's valuable and he's done all this for his tribe and he just assumes that other people are going to perceive that as well when it takes more time to actually prove these things to people that you've just met. And so maybe that was part of the issue as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's, and I was trying to figure out where to bring this up because I didn't know. I think you're right, Jessica. I think it's the mindset. He thought Survivor should be like this.
Yeah.
And that's why he didn't like Sandra's Anybody But Me. And that's why he thought survival skills should be more important. And that's why, you know, and I think it's part of his overall mindset of, and you should stay loyal to your ally.
Right.
You know, and so even though I do think that, you know, you picked the exact right place, and this is a rarity where I say, you know, that you picked the exact right rule to discuss this in. Look at you.
Oh, look at me. I'm not getting yelled at for moving ahead. Oh my gosh.
Because I do think, I do think that that's really the situation, that he was not flexible in his thoughts about what Survivor is. And he's wrong.
David, you're right.
All right.
For agreeing with me. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. Do y'all think this is more of like a generational thing? Where I they come from a different generation where like, that's like those are like the values that were very much instilled in him, and I feel like with these younger players, it's like, you know, as the times have changed, it's more about like the line, the scheme, and the productivity, the like let's get it at any cost. Like I feel like the values of the generations are different, and I'm sure you, Jessica, also know like with the season that you played where it was like Gen X versus millennials, like you probably saw some of that too. So do you think that that's part of it? Is just like
I think it certainly can be. I know that the There was a certain mindset with the tribe I was on, as more of that, like, you work hard for the things that you want to acquire, as opposed to, well, I want these things because I looked at an app and it told me this is what I have to do to, acquire these things. And so I do think that it is potentially a generational thing. But I've also seen people that have played this game who are still of that same kind of mindset, and it's not necessarily attached to their generation, so it might just be how they were raised. And this is something that we were talking about with Shannon earlier, that there are certain components of yourself that you bring into this game. And Matt was very clear in his pregame interviews that this was going to be part of what he was going to be doing, because he grew up like outside and he was outdoors all the time, and he is an outdoorsy person. And so for him making fire and for having to survive in the elements, not difficult for him at all. And so it's probably a combination of both, like how he was raised, but then also he is part of his generation, because he's not, I mean, they were talking about Smash Bros and he's like, I have no idea what this is. Like, I have no clue. I'm gonna go make a fire. Like, that's what he knows how to do. So yeah, I mean, I do think that that's probably part of it, but I do think it's also just part of who he was coming into the game.
Yeah.
So
I think I mean, I'm older than him, and I don't think the way he does. So it's not purely generational. And I think this is something we talked about a little bit, Jessica, with Rob on episode 2, that there is this thought that, back in the old days of Survivor, it was like this.
yeah.
But it wasn't.
Right.
It really almost never was. I used to have a rule, I've talked about this before, that said providing food wins allies. And that was the first rule I dumped, because it didn't. There were still some people who thought that, but I mean, it doesn't take long to get to Boston Rob's first season, where he gets rid of Hunter, the biggest, strongest guy there.
Yeah.
And so you have this concept. It's, the good old days fallacy. Oh, things were always so much better in the good old days. This is the way it was. No, Richard Hatch won season 1. He went out and fit.
That's so true. He was.
I mean, he
was
out
sitting in a tree.
He's not the typical like Survivor guy.
I mean, he had more survival skills.
He
than
was
many,
the most like nefarious, like almost sort of like crazy.
Yeah, he won it through scheming and plotting and everything else. I mean,
God, what an incredible season!
Yeah,
I love Borneo so much. It's my favorite.
So yeah, it's some people get it in their heads. This is the way it should be played.
Right.
They're just wrong. So
you just have to be able to adapt. And like, I think from all the seasons we've seen, I think that is a mindset that you should come in with. That it's like, by now you should know, if you watch enough Survivor, that stuff just doesn't really cut it fully. Yeah. Like, it can be definitely like a good addition to your game and a good like reason for people to keep you, but it can't be the only reason.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Yes.
All right. Well, we could go to the fourth
I was
rule.
Kissing my cat, if anybody was wondering what that sound was. I couldn't help it. I'm sorry.
The fourth rule tells players not to let their emotions control them. Cassidy, speaking of emotions, what do you think of how Matt did here?
Speaking of emotions.
Well, with the cat. With the cat.
Right. Sorry, could you repeat the question? I got distracted with the cat.
The cat.
How do you think Matt did in terms of, not letting his emotions control him?
Obviously he didn't seem overly emotional. He seemed pretty calm, and like he was trying to be strategic, and I don't think he like had an emotional outburst or anything, but I think that his emotions, as far as Jason was concerned, was what was his downfall. I think him just like wanting, like seeing Jason as like this like good guy, this friend, and of course you feel that way about these people that you've bonded with, and you've had such I mean, the beginning of Survivor, like the first few days, the bonding that you have with your tribe, if you're lucky and you have like a good set of people, is really hard to describe, and you do feel a lot for these people very early, even though you're like, it's been 6 days, like how much can you actually care? But you do feel this intense bonds, and obviously you're going through a very like intense situation together too, which bonds you even quicker. But and so I think that his like attachment to Jason was really like the emotional downfall that he had, of just like not being willing to sacrifice him. Because yeah, other than that, I think like he wasn't. I mean, I don't know. I think that was really the biggest emotional like
Yeah.
downfall that he had, was just like not wanting to turn on Jason because he felt strongly about him. But at the end of the day, you just it's you, baby. It's you. You gotta you're there for you, and you're obviously your other reasons that you have, your family and but it's like you just have to put that aside, even though it's so hard. I felt that way all the time, like especially when we like speaking of Lindsay, like she was just on your podcast when we voted Lindsay out. That was like one of the hardest votes for me, because I loved her so much, like already at that point, but I just didn't. I was like, when I came back from my interview, they're like, "We're voting Lindsay." I was like, "What the fuck?" But I had no time to like really you just have to be like anybody but me. Like really, back to Sandra. Like at that point, when it is when your back is against the wall, you kind of have to adopt that mindset in order to survive, like in this game. And you can go out with your like morals and all that, but if you really want to survive in this game, you have to at least be willing at times, even though it's so hard and you love these people so much and you think they're amazing and they deserve the million. It's like, but you really like you have to put yourself first, unfortunately, and that can be very difficult, at times. But that's what I think. Long-winded answer.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it's pretty clear Matt was controlled by his emotions after the swap with, when it came to Jason. It wasn't because of his strategic plans. He was a big fan. He loved him, etc. And yeah, I mean, you said it well. You can't allow that to be your guide. It was literally a choice between the two of them.
Right.
And that's the game he signed up for.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the thing that gets me, and Jessica, you mentioned this already, that Matt knew this was an issue for him coming into the game.
Yeah.
He told Mike Bloom in the pregame interview that his kryptonite was, quote, "I'm loyal to a fault. I need to make sure that when I make friends and alliances, I keep my distance and realize we're playing a game. There's $1 million on the line and there's one winner." He knew this. He knew. And when he saw the kryptonite, he picked it up and he held it close.
He licked it.
Yeah, I mean,
you gotta love when people are just so authentically themselves, though. You can't help but be. And when it's like loyalty is your kryptonite, you're doing all right. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, you lost $1 million, but as a human being, you're doing all right.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. For sure.
I don't know how you could say he's doing all right. He's clearly a sociopath. Just ask Savannah.
But I mean, of
that's
course,
right. They're charming though.
Yes.
Or is that the psychopath? Can't remember.
I don't remember either. But we'll get to that in a bit. But for now,
we should just mention, salespeople were the issue previously. Now it's finance managers. Now this is going to be the
yes. Yeah. We'll get to that.
Yeah, but I always say it's funny because like what's funny to me is whenever like lawyers are like, I can't tell anybody I'm a lawyer, and then people find out they're a lawyer and they're like, okay, but then it's like all of a sudden this branch manager of a finance company, it's like you wouldn't like that's it, now that's the new lawyer, or not even, because I feel like lawyer, he didn't think it was a big deal he was a branch manager, whereas lawyers think it's a big deal they're lawyers, and anyways,
yeah. Well, the fifth rule reminds players they need to pretend to be nice and play the social game. And I think Matt was doing fine in this regard, at least for now. It did seem to take a little while for him to socially integrate himself in his original tribe. And it was hampered a bit by the age gap. But like I said earlier, I think if they had gone to tribal council in that tribe, he would have been fine. And he really didn't have time to do much socially, either good or bad, in his new tribe. So I don't think it was a factor here.
Yeah, and I know he and Steven bonded very quickly. So he did seem to have the ability to make the relationships that were necessary. He had a quick 4, even though MC didn't really like that she came in as late as she did, which he said was by like 30 seconds. But I think overall, he integrated himself better than I thought he was necessarily going to be able to do. I thought that he and Steven were likely going to bond because of their pregame interviews and press. So he did seem to find that balance at the beginning. And I do think, yeah, if they had gone to tribal council, he likely would have been fine. Yeah.
Now, I do want to mention something that Matt told Mike Bloom. He said how different it would have been if they'd have put Annie, Nate, and me all on the same tribe, where we did have that commonality with the older people. Instead, we were split, one on each tribe. And I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know what makes good TV, but I think it would have been interesting to have some other players on my initial tribe closer to my age. And I completely agree. This is a problem. We've seen it before, and it is similar, not exactly the same by any means, but similar to what they used to do with people of different races. They'd throw one on each tribe and say, see how diverse we are? Except that one person would have no one they could really connect with. And you have the same situation here. And yes, sometimes an older player can integrate themselves like Nate has done. But then you have other situations where they can't. So many other examples pointing the other way that often, Jessica, when we do our preview podcast, we'll be like, well, this is the one person who's 20 years older than everyone else. I don't know how well they're going to do. And so I think it's interesting that he brought that up. Honestly, it may have been the most important thing he brought up. And I think Jeff should listen to this. Now, Jeff was asked a question on his On Fire podcast about doing a Golden Survivor, kind of a Survivor version of the Golden Bachelor. And he said there really aren't enough people applying of that age range to make it work, which fine. I get that. But certainly there are enough to put more than one person over the age of 40 on a tribe. Give them a
Get
little.
my mom on there. She is so buff. My mom is like 10 times stronger than I am.
Is she applying?
Well, I don't know if she can, because apparently, like, people in your family can't apply to Survivor.
You could always apply.
That's what I was told. That's what I swear to God, it was like in one of the contracts or something. It was like people of your family can't apply. Am I losing my mind?
I think you're losing your mind.
You've got to be out of your contract by now anyway.
Well, I don't even know if it was. I don't even know if it was a con. It was like something I had signed at one point. It was like your family members cannot like apply.
I think someone's messing with you.
No, I swear. All right, well, mom.
No, anyway, get your mom on.
Yeah, mom, get your mom on there.
Water. She's like she's like abs and like she's so strong. She's gotten me like back on my fitness track because I'm like, Mom, you're an inspiration. She's incredible. But yeah, she would crush it in like a Golden Survivor or just like as a person on Survivor in general. But yeah. So. Also, can I say that Nate looks like my grandpa, not in like a way that he looks old. Like I don't want to see like he looks old. Their faces are like the same. He's just like, it's just like a different skin tone, but they look so similar. I'm like, it's like tripping me out.
Yeah.
So I like love Nate for that reason also. And Nate, like, I don't know. Yeah, it's just kind of crazy. Anyways. I know.
All right. Well, we could go to the 6th rule, which warns against being too much of a threat. And we know Matt is a threat because, as we said, a dozen years ago, he was a manager in finance.
Oh, of course.
Like we mentioned, those people are all sociopaths. And you know what? It's amazing he didn't just murder them all in their sleep. He's such a sociopath.
You got to be cutthroat to survive in a world like that. Come on.
Literal cutthroat. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a hot take. She seems more cutthroat than any of the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
well, sometimes isn't that what you do? Like people who live in glass houses, like often throw stones and they shoot.
Yeah, it's like whenever you don't want other people to call you that, then you call them that first.
Right, exactly.
So that you're covered.
Especially since now think about what question she asked him that got to this. What did you do before then? Well, that's the one question she doesn't want to answer because she's in marketing, except until recently she was a reporter and she doesn't want to tell people she was a reporter.
Right.
So she would not have answered this question the way he did, and obviously this whole thing cooked up by Savannah is ridiculous because first, by claiming all people who rose up the chain in finance were like that. Second, for not recognizing that he had left that field a long time ago because it wasn't for him, which might indicate that he's not a sociopath. Even if you say all the other people in that field are, he left because he didn't like it.
Yeah.
But with all of that said, I don't know why Matt told them that. He didn't plan to coming in. He could have just said he always worked at the airport. And, he basically said that to Mike Bloom. And even if he did say he worked in finance, he didn't need to add that he was a manager and then kept moving up the chain.
Yeah.
So, even without the whole sociopath thing, that indicates a higher and theoretically more complex level of intelligence that could be seen as threatening in Survivor.
Sure. And I think, again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. When you go into this game, you have to prepare yourself for those parts of yourself that you want people to know about and the parts that you don't. And what are you willing to share? And how are you willing to share that information? And his explanation of, well, no one had asked me what I did before. Well, if you had walked into the game with the idea of, I don't want anybody to know that, well, then you should have been prepared to answer that question if ever asked.
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, this is when you are preparing yourself to play this game, you have to work through all of these versions and you have to decide what it is you want to share. Because again, people will look for any reason to vote you out. And now you are a sociopath because you are a finance manager.
Yeah. I almost feel like sometimes people can't help themselves, like with their own accomplishments. And
Yes,
not that it's
and that
not
is
even like
true.
it's an ego, like he's like ego driven, but I think sometimes people like nobody's asking and he's like gets too excited to tell them like I did have this like big accomplishment in my life, and you know what I mean? I think
Right.
people almost can't help themselves but to tell that. And that's fair. Like people are excited to talk about their accomplishments and that's you worked hard for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not worth it in this platform specifically.
Right.
You know what I mean? You would
Right.
tell everybody at Final Tribal, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
But also, can I say really quick, is the report, I know I said earlier the branch manager thing about the lawyer, but is the reporter the new lawyer where like you think it's a big threat, but it's like, is being a reporter a threat?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, in the past, being a reporter has been more of a fun thing. We had Devins, we had Sam, and even at the beginning, Savannah was doing and this is Savannah reporting on, but if
like, yeah, you're good at like, like speaking on the spot and like,
right.
But when you put in a
Sussing
reporter
people
voice,
out.
it feels less, yes, that's true, I guess. Like if you're doing like journalism and like you're like scoping out cases and things, I think
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
a little different.
would I be
But if
worried
you're
to
just a
play
news reporter, I don't know.
Yeah, would I be worried to play against like the local TV news
News.
reporter from the town that I'm in? No. No, I would not be worried about that. Would I be worried about playing against, Barbara Walters in her prime? Yeah, probably. So,
Sure.
Yeah, fair.
it's a little bit of a difference there.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to say, even with all this said, and I know other people have spent more time on this, like, and the show even made it a focus, I think, of, oh, here's a reason that he lost.
Mm.
Matt told Rob that conversation happened just a few hours before Tribal Council, and he didn't think it had much, if any, impact. And I just suspect he's mostly right. I mean, I will say Nate wanted Matt out. Savannah and Rizzo wanted Jason out. With Savannah determining that Matt's a sociopath, that could have helped swing her over if there was still a debate going on. Or she might have just even used it as a rationalization why it was okay for her to switch. I really think Nate's position against Matt was going to win the day regardless.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I 100% agree. Again, you're looking for reasons, sure.
Yeah.
But anything to like add fuel to the fire, I think is probably what we were seeing there. And it was just one more thing that they could point to as a reason why he's got to go.
Yeah. All right, well, we could go to the 7th rule, which covers idols and advantages and game mechanics. And even though it didn't come into play, I want to start with idols because apparently he was out looking for them all the time, starting right at the beginning of the game.
Except that one tree. Except the one tree.
Except the one tree that had the big suspicious looking hole in it. They would never, ever hide an idol there. But yes, it was to the point that Stephen pulled him aside and told him people on his original tribe were already talking about it very early. The problem was that Matt told Mike Bloom, I really am not going to go out on the island and not look for an idol and not try and find an advantage and not try and play the game. And that's the issue here. It goes back to this mindset he had. We were talking about, is it about a more old school way of playing? I mean, idols aren't old school per se, but I think that he was locked into this mindset. He equated hunting for idols as this is the way to play the game. But that's not. It's a part of the game. It is within the game, but the game as a whole is all of the first 6 rules that we just discussed.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I really do feel like there's a problem now with the old school mentality with the new era of Survivor, right? Because even if Matt is thinking, well, I have to go find idols, you're not finding an idol. You're finding a beware advantage that might lead you to an idol. And so if you're kind of locked into this idea of what Survivor used to be, it's not what Survivor is. And so you have to be able to recognize that and make the corrections needed, because it's not just finding an idol. It's finding something that might be problematic for your game unless you're able to work through all of the many rules and regulations that come attached with the beware advantage.
Yeah. Now, again, I think that it's, just like I said, it's part of his overall mindset. But he never found an idol anyway, and his original tribe never voted, so that never came into play. It's more just a look inside his head more than anything. But one thing that did come into play, or I guess did not come into play, was he had an opportunity to at least play his shot in the dark for a 1 in 6 chance of sticking around. But he didn't. Pretty much every interviewer asked him about that because he said, well, after he would say, I was pretty sure my plan wasn't going to work, they were all like, well, did you consider playing your shot in the dark? And he was like, no, I was never going to do that because what if my plan worked? What if Jawan, Jason, and Sophie all voted against Nate and I was the one who didn't? I would have looked stupid. But if you think there's a 90% chance you're going home and that your plan is not going to work, well, then you should play your shot in the dark, because that was 90% coming in before he realized that Sophie had been adopted by the original Uli players. Now,
did you make that realization during tribal council?
No, yes. When she said it, they talked about it there.
Right. So, but I didn't know if that was where it kind of clicked for him.
Yes. Because, I mean, he said coming in, he was 90% likely to get voted out. And I've made fun of these percentages pulled out of thin air before, but if you are going to do math in your head and you believe that you have at most a 10% chance of surviving tribal council, well, then it's better to have a 16.7% chance of using your shot in the dark.
Hate that I want to agree with that. It just shouldn't be a thing. It just shouldn't be a thing. But regardless.
Yeah. He's just, again, he was so stuck in this mindset. Well, I don't want to look stupid if my plan works. But your plan was never going to work.
Right. Yeah.
So. All right. Well, we can go to Appendix A, which discusses players keeping their end goals in mind when voting. And we talk about voting out the weak, then the strong, then the weak, then the strong. In a situation like this, there are 2 reasons to consider a player weak. alliance and challengeability. These are things we've talked about for the last few weeks. Unfortunately for Matt, he was on the wrong side in both areas because obviously he was not part of the original Uli tribe, so that put him outside their alliance. And if they were voting based on challengeability, well, if there's a future puzzle challenge, everyone knows Jason is the guy to keep for those.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, Matt.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Matt told Mike he really was a game changer. And after a couple of days there, why the hell would you get rid of Jason?
Right. Yeah.
That's true. Maybe he even felt like going into it that they were going to keep Jason no matter what. He may not even realize the like hesitancy that some of the players on Uli had about keeping Jason, and then just thought like he's an obvious shoo-in. So like, what can I do? Can I make a big move to save myself? Because maybe he thought like they would see him as like an invaluable or like a more valuable resource.
If he had said that in his interview, I would have considered that possibility, but he didn't. I mean, his reasons were all emotional. You know, he just talked about the early, you know, on the early Hina days about, oh, well, of course, everybody was, you know, wanted to keep Jason then. So, I mean, you know, Matt talked about being stronger in challenges in other ways, but, you know, we saw this week what they saw. He stepped up for the balance beam portion and stepped off 3 times, you know, which put them behind. And they did not lose this challenge by much, meaning if he had made it across on his first time, they might well have won.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder why he like had nominated himself for the first portion.
He said he wanted it in his own hands. He wasn't really thinking anyone would throw, but he didn't want to end up losing because someone else screwed up.
Okay.
So he'd rather take the chance.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, do I think his challenge weakness compared to Jason was a primary reason they decided to vote him out? Probably not. But, you know, we keep having these little small points against him. And I think the main issue there was he specifically named a target, Nate. One of you brought it up much earlier, you know, and Nate was obviously unhappy about that. You know, meanwhile, Jason was seen as not being committed to this tribe, but that's not as big a sin as being committed to getting one of them out and naming that person.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, plus I agree with, you know, mark this day down also. I agree with what Steven said on Know-It-Alls, that it's better even for Savannah to keep Jason, who is at least straightforward about his plans. We talked about this. He said, I want to do this. Okay, he's being honest about it, as opposed to Matt, who tells Nate, well, I'm anyone but me, but then is immediately scheming with other people to get rid of Nate.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
That all makes sense.
So, all right. Well, it is about time to wrap things up. Cassidy, what are your final thoughts about Matt?
You know what? I love his dreads. I thought he seemed like a cool individual. It is unfortunate that I think like he got put into a bad situation and maybe made it a little bit worse. I do think he tried to fight in his own way, whether it was like the right decision or not. I still respect that he like tried to like make something happen. And you know, I'm sad to see him go. I'm sad to see them all go, but yeah, I don't know. I thought he seemed cool. That's really all I have to say. Listen,
he did seem cool. He did seem cool. I will say that there were 2 things about Matt that I noted right from the beginning when I was going through his pregame press, and that was he stated that he will be doing everything risky, and he is loyal to a fault. And we've already talked about him being loyal to a fault, and we've indicated as well his willingness to do everything risky, ultimately naming Nate. And so I think that he was unfortunately very aware of his faults coming into this game, but he didn't see them necessarily as faults, even though he said he's loyal to a fault. Like if you have to kind of like put those things together, like, you know, that you're a loyal person, but you have to recognize how that might work against you in a game like Survivor. And you also need to recognize that making risky decisions can also work against you in a game like Survivor. And I think Matt had an idea in his head of what Survivor should be. I think there's a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking happening with Matt, where he's like, I should have come in like Tony, and I should have just like tore up the island and been crazy, and then maybe they would have noticed me and I'd done all these things. And it's like, no, that's Tony's style. That's not your style. And the anybody but me, I don't like Sandra's way of playing, but I'll say that that's Sandra's style. Like, you have to figure out when you play this game what's going to work for you as a person and everything you're bringing into it. And so I really do think that Matt struggled really, truly understanding his place in a game like Survivor. He came in with this idea of survival skills and the things that he's going to be able to bring to the table, recognizing issues that he's going to present, but not necessarily recognizing them as issues, and then playing a game that put his entire self at risk instead of making himself the number one priority for his game. And so I do think that overall, Matt had an idea of what the game needed to be for him, but unfortunately, that game was not appropriate for the game that he wanted to play based upon everything he brought to the table. And so I just think that Matt's headspace with what Survivor is, unfortunately, is not what his game turned out to be.
See, Jessica, this is why everybody needs a spirit animal. They need to decide what spirit animal they have going into it, and like what game they can play based off of their own strengths and weaknesses, and then just follow that. That's what I did. So
what was your spirit animal?
My spirit animal was the fox.
The fox.
It was weird, but I kept seeing foxes everywhere I went before I left to play the game.
Oh, okay.
And it was like so powerful. It was like powerful moments. Like, I had never seen a fox in real life before, and then like a couple weeks before going, I see this fox running through the forest, and then like I see a fox 3 times in my neighborhood like after that, and then I started seeing fox imagery everywhere, and I felt like with my personality, like that was like this sort of like the playful, the kind of a little bit conniving, that like that was the energy that I truly felt like my spirit could embody in that game, and I kind of took that with me, and I prayed to the fox spirit. And I feel like that, anyways, I'm being silly, but I do feel like it helps to sort of have like a totem animal or some sort of like way that you can like, it's not necessarily you're emulating a player, but you're emulating like an essence and what essence works for me, you know what I mean? And so you're not like necessarily beholden to the player's mistakes or like wins or triumphs. It's like you're kind of like taking a more broad view of like what can I embody and what can I, you know what I mean, take into this game. And I don't know. So I think that maybe instead of a Tony or a Sandra, are you the snake? Are you the badger?
I think she's just trying to use spiritualism to get you on her side. That's what I think she's doing.
You know what? Damn it, David.
It's working.
You got me. I'm working on being a cult leader.
Yeah.
I'm not quite there, but
yes. And also, unfortunately, in your season, the spirit of the alligator was the one that
is I mean, alligator ate the fox. What can I say? Stuff. Stuff. But an alligator in a fox fight is, what could I have done?
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of unfair.
Yeah. So, I mentioned earlier that Matt has primarily blamed the tribe swap and drawing the wrong buff for getting voted out. But he also added there wasn't much more he could have done, and he tried and went out swinging. The problem is that while all of that is somewhat true, it's missing very important key elements. He was not the only one put in a bad position in the swap. Jason and Sophie were right there with him, but each of them handled it differently. Sophie, of course, wasn't in as bad a spot because of her tribe of 2, was not seen as a threat like the full tribe of Hina was. But even so, she quickly ingratiated herself with multiple original Uli players. And while Jason didn't do a great job handling his own position, at least he didn't launch a campaign to target the majority and was eventually willing to vote against Matt. That wasn't the case for Matt. He got tunnel vision and decided he had one way out, an alliance with Jawan, Jason, and Sophie. But even he knew that was a long shot. And still, he wouldn't allow himself to take the most obvious route and throw Jason under the bus because he fell prey to the weakness he knew he had coming into the game by allowing his emotions to interfere. considering the suspicion that Savannah and Rizzo already had about Jason. And I know, Jessica, you mentioned maybe he didn't know about this, but he should have, I feel like. And I just don't think it would have taken much for Matt to convince them to go in that direction. He just needed to tell them he was with them, willing to do what it took to prove that, etc. But he wouldn't. Even when it came to playing his shot in the dark, he just was locked into this tunnel vision. In his mind, there was only one solution. This was a perfect anybody but me situation where it would have been wise to follow Queen Sandra's teachings. Instead, he claimed to Nate he was willing to do that, but it was a bluff, and he never actually was. As Sandra herself said on Instagram when she saw what he said, girl bye, queen stays queen. And that is why Matt lost.
Oh, God love her.
That's amazing.
I love her.
She's on vacation. She's like, I'm just sitting here. I think she's in Hawaii or something. She's like, I'm just sitting here. All of a sudden, I'm taking shots. What's going on?
Keep them off. I can't keep them out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Like...
That's amazing.
So
can't keep me out of their mouth.
Yes,
that's what I meant.
I got you, Cassidy.
Yeah,
too much wine.
Yeah,
I always do this when I hang out with y'all. I just solo drink wine, and then by the end of it.
Oh God.
So before we get to our predictions for next episode, I do want to mention that next week we will have another returning guest, our third Survivor 43 player in a row, James Jones.
Oh, yeah. Come on,
Very
Coco,
exciting.
baby. Just Coco after Coco.
That's right.
Best
This is the alliance
name ever.
we wished you had formed, the Y Blank Lost Alliance, right here. We're having all three of you in a row.
I know, incredible.
So
we would have taken the game by storm. Me, Lindsay, and James.
Yes.
Come on.
Now we want to remind
he'll do
everyone,
great. I feel like he's so good at the podcast too. Like he's very thoughtful and
he's always thinking about the game. I mean, he is texting people. He and I were texting back and forth about this episode. And
why didn't he text me? James. Hit me
James.
up. I miss
Come
him.
on.
I haven't talked to him in ages. It's crazy.
Well,
Me and him were
he'll
actually besties on the island. Like we were very close, believe it or not.
So I believe it.
I'm excited to hear it.
Yeah. So we do want to remind, before we go further, we want to remind everyone that the rules we just discussed are available in poster form and, of course, in poster on a T-shirt form and in checklist on a T-shirt form. So, again, go to robhasawebsite.com/yxlostfeed and scroll down and click on all of those.
Yes.
Now,
and do I tell everyone where they can find us?
Well, we can ask Cassidy where people can find her.
Buy a shirt.
Let's start with Cassidy. Cassidy, where can everyone find you?
You know, Instagram. I'm not on social media much these days, but if you want to keep up with my occasional story, my every few month long post, I'm on Instagram at Khaleesi, CAHLEESI, and that's about it. Yeah.
Well,
find me there, find me square.
Yeah.
There you go. I am also not very social media heavy at this point, but I am at Jessica Lewis 89 on both Blue Sky and Twitter, and I'm at Jessica Lewis 6789 on Instagram. But yeah, I'm not anything like David Bloomberg over here, who is just become a social media guru, as he has indicated on his link tree. In order to find all of the places that David Bloomberg hangs out, you can go to his link tree and find out. So, David, talk about your link tree, shall you, please?
It is, yes, at Linktree/David Bloomberg. You could find all the various things there. It still says guru there. I haven't changed it to rules god. You
do. Yes.
Stop, that was
God.
so clean. Incredible.
That rules god. That was great.
No, you're our new cult leader, David.
Yeah. I've always said I could do it. Yeah, I've always said I could do it.
I mean, you've got the rules down. You've got,
if only I didn't have a conscience.
Name like that.
Yeah. So you
if
could
only
also,
you became an embodied head with your green screen shirt,
right?
And then people would really be like, "This is a spiritual being."
Yeah.
Do it. Show everybody.
No, it's too,
Yeah, come on, because now the joke's out of context because they didn't hear us before we got on
well, they'll
air.
just
So
have
now
to,
you
yeah,
have to do it.
yeah, well. Um, so you can find me in addition directly on Blue Sky as at David Bloomberg. And of course, on the various video platforms, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, where I'm at David Bloomberg TV. Right now, I've been posting about 3, sometimes 2, sometimes 4 short videos every day. Most of them are, of course, about Survivor 49, plus some about Celebrity Traders UK. And soon the Traders Canada season 3 will be joining them. And that season is going to include a few familiar faces, including one who has been a guest on this very podcast, Omer. So hopefully he
Excellent.
sticks
Oh,
around for
incredible.
a long time.
That's so fun.
And then, as a matter of fact, I will also be hosting the Tradar podcast for the Traders Canada. So watch for that as well. You can find the Tradar. It's TRAIDAR. So you can find that. The first episode will be out before the next episode of this podcast. So with that, it is time for predictions.
I hate this.
Now, I think I've gotten 2 in a row right. Now, have they been a little bit obvious? Yeah, kind of. There's on Chat BCC, I think is it Pluto TV? Maybe it's Chat BCC itself, has been posting a contest, a predictions contest. And I got 3rd place this time. Now, mind you, I tied with 30 other people for 3rd place. But and when I looked to see how many people predicted Matt, it was like 300 and some, I think. There was a lot of people who predicted Matt would go this episode.
Oh, there.
But looking ahead to next episode, I think it gets a little trickier because well, it depends. It's pretty obvious if Hina goes back to tribal council, Jason is a goner, despite the clip that we saw in the preview of Savannah saying, "Oh, Jawan's annoying and most likely to flip." I suspect that that's one of those out of context where she then says, "But for now, he's good for my game." She's not going to suddenly change her mind and decide Jason is going to be more loyal than the guy who revealed Matt's plan to them all. It's just not going to happen.
Right.
So maybe that's what happens. Maybe they lose again and we say goodbye to Jason. It's more interesting if things go the other direction because Shannon and Sage are doing what Matt and Jason should have done, turning on each other. Now, what I worry about is Shannon, as we discussed, seems to have them all eating out of the palm of her hands, though Steven is worried about her. So, maybe in that situation, he could convince some of his original Hinas to vote her out. However, as much as I would like to predict that, I find myself being drawn back to what I said was the most obvious because so much of this season has been pretty obvious. And I think that's why they included the misdirect with the Savannah line about Jawan. So I think Jason goes next.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something different.
Nope. I circled back. Fooled you. You thought I was going right and I was going left.
You did fool me. You've totally fooled me. So here's my prediction. Sage. And I say Sage because her storyline currently consists of bodily functions and more bodily fluids coming out of your body from various pores on your body. And I just am kind of
into a jar.
Like, what are we doing exactly? Like, if this is if your Survivor moment is all about that part of your existence, I feel like there's not much strategy there that's going to affect the storyline. It's just my thought.
Am I next?
Yes, you are.
You're the only one left.
I hadn't thought about this before. Wait.
Who aren't on the
Actually,
screen.
my cats wanted to chime
okay.
in. They have something to say.
Yeah.
So I didn't think about this too hard before, but I'm gonna just I'm gonna dissent from what y'all are saying just for fun, for funsies.
Sure. We love that.
why not? If it's going to be the other tribe, like, because obviously I think if this same tribe goes to tribal council, it will most likely be Jason.
Mhm.
If it's the other tribe, could be Sage for sure. They have been leading with a storyline of Shannon, of
Mhm.
like, you know what I mean? Sage is like, let me get people to see this. Like, she's laying it on too thick, blah, 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 blah. So I'm just going to go for Shannon because, like, why not? You
All
know?
right.
It's probably
Well, I
not
like
going to be her. It's probably not
Yeah.
going to be her, but just to give, so we're all like, we've all got our
Yeah.
stronghold of who we think's going to go home. Like, I'll just pick somebody different.
If I
I'll pick
voted for
Shannon.
which one I wanted, I would pick yours.
Okay,
But,
great. I'll have
so
backing then.
yeah.
From the rules god.
Yes. So, all right. Well, as we wrap
Yay.
up, I want to encourage people to check out the RHAP patron program at robhasawebsite.com/patron. You can get access to all of the special podcasts that are put out just for patrons, now including Club Condo, plus the Facebook groups and Discord, and you get discounts and early access to tickets to live shows and things like that. So, plus, of course, the main reason you can support shows like this one and everything on the network. So become a patron at robhasawebsite.com/patron. Also, make sure you're subscribed to all the RHAP Survivor podcasts by going to the website address that's on the screen below Jessica and next to Cassidy, which says we know Survivor.
Other way,
Other way.
Cassidy.
We know Survivor. I know.
I swear there's something on this side of my screen. What's that?
There is. It's just a logo.
Sorry,
so
Pete.
yes. So that's we know Survivor.com.
Logo's on this side for me.
Yeah, it's backwards. You got to get used to. Even us,
Okay.
we still forget sometimes.
Both ways. Just check it out.
Yes.
Look everywhere.
So yes, you can get all of the Survivor podcasts from RHAP at weknowsurvivor.com. Us, the Know-It-Alls, the B&B, Survivor Global, and much more.
Yes. And we would love to thank everyone from RHAP with all of the incredible content that you create and also supporting podcasts like this one, the Why Blank Lost. There is so much content available to you at We Know Survivor and just also RHAP in general. You name it, they're doing a podcast on it. It's happening. So thank you to Scott and Jessica for all of the behind the scenes work that you do, including all of the RHAP employees and the people that work, the entire team, incredible stuff that you do. Will from America, thank you for the theme song that you created for the audio version of this podcast. And Cassidy, thank you so much for joining us and working through all of the rules with the rules god and
Yes.
giving us an
It's a
opportunity
pleasure.
to see your cats. That was lovely. They were so
It really just wanted you guys to see my cats.
Yeah.
Well, we
And
do like
I wanted to
cats.
sprinkle a little chaos back into the Survivor world. So
Oh, well, listen, it's always great having you here. You're
been a
such an
pleasure.
incredible person to join us. So thank you.
Yes.
I'm shedding tears. Thank you.
Yes, let me add my thanks to that too, just to cause more tears. But yes, thank you very much. We're very happy to have you back on, and yeah, I thought this was a lot of fun, and hopefully
so
the
fun.
listeners will too. So
yeah.
And of course, thank you, Jessica, as always. And glad you got over that snake bite and were able to make it.
Glad.
Here.
So glad.
So with that, we will be back in a week. As I mentioned, we will have the third 43er in a row with James. And so, we were going to make this whole season just 43, but I think we've run out of people at that point who've been on the podcast before.
If he makes y'all laugh more than I did, I'm going to be upset.
All right. Well, we will see. And of course, people can find us on social media in the meantime. So till next week. Bye.
Peace.
Bye.
Mwah.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.